Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to play Carcassonne Amazonas. Now this is my second favorite Carcassonne Amazonas game, and it's also done by Z-Man Games as well. Now Carcassonne is a tile laying game, so the setup is very easy. It's just a simple little setup, but putting away the game will take a little bit more time than setup, because it is a tile laying game. Each player is going to be setting a tile down one at a time. They might place a meeple down. They also might place a camp down as well. And if they don't do any of those things, they also might, they will definitely move their boat if they don't do any of those things, for sure. So let's take a look at this game, Carcassonne Amazonas. I'll be showing you guys how to play it, but I'm also going to be playing it as well. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Alright, so these are our boats here. Every player is going to get a boat, and the object will be obviously to move your boat down the Amazon River here, starting from here and working your way down. Now, you're going to also have these double tile pieces. You will only end up using 3 of these out of 4, and they will only be used in a certain instance. Now, you're going to have lots of tiles here. There's tons of these, and most of these are land tiles, which you'll be placing either where my fingers are to start with, or here, or there, or there, or there. You will not be allowed to place anything here, because this is for the river. This is to continue the Amazon River in that direction. And so the tiles will branch out in this direction some before they really go any further in that direction, because it is contingent on adding the Amazon River pieces. Now, there's quite a few. There's quite a few of the Amazon tiles in here. So it will get added on to at some point. But until then, if a boat reaches this space here and there isn't a tile to continue further, that's as far as it goes until a tile is placed here that's part of the Amazon River. Now, out of all the Amazon River tiles, there are 3 that have an exclamation point on them. When you get that particular tile, you will place it like you normally would with the other Amazon River tiles, but then you will add this double tile here. Now, you'll just kind of randomly pick one of the 4, basically, and you'll add it to the additional tile. So, something like, for instance, this. Let's just say this tile is part of the Amazon River. If you were to place it, it would be placed like that on the table, basically. Now, when you do manage to add an Amazon River piece, then this is what happens. Even if it's just this on its own. If this is the Amazon River tile, which it is, because it is, so if it's just this little piece that you place, you will count up points based on what's on the Amazon River here. Now, there's either caiman or there's piranhas. And there we go, it's not fuzzy anymore. So when you place one of these Amazon River tiles down, the boat that's furthest up the river, or down the river, however you want to see it, will score all the points based on the number of caiman and piranha that show up. The person who's in second place, so the boat that's second place, will score just for the piranhas. And obviously, if there's a boat in third place, they will not score any points, but they will get to move their boat up 1 space on the river. So that's, now if you have more than 1 player tied for first or second, then they will all score the same amount of points anyways. So that's something else and also that could happen as well. Now, when you do somehow manage to get an exclamation point, you'll notice, because on the river there'll be a little like stone island on the river with an exclamation point. So obviously there isn't an exclamation point on this tile. But if there was, then you'd add both of these and you'd have a lot more caiman and piranha to add to the score, obviously, which is pretty decent. Another interesting thing is when you do place a double tile with a regular tile, your meeple or your camp that you want to place can only be placed on the double tile. You'll never be able to place a meeple or a camp on a tile with an exclamation point. So normally this would just be placed on its own, and you could obviously add a camp on the bank of this tile, like in the forest, for instance. But since there is no village here, then you wouldn't be able to place a meeple. There is a village on both sides of this one, so you could place a meeple in the village here, or a meeple in the village there. So that's kind of how that all works there. Now, it's only going to happen 3 times, because there's only 3 of these tiles with exclamation points. But you will score points as you go down the river, and the player, obviously, who has the boat furthest down is going to score more points. Now, how do you move a boat? Well, on your turn, you will be placing a tile. And what most likely will be the case is the tile will be a land tile. And so let's see here. Let's just see if I can randomly find a land tile. So here's a land tile right here. Normally, you would be placing a meeple on a land tile, or a camp on a land tile that you just placed. So, for instance, let's grab a meeple and a camp. Okay. You could, on this particular tile, for instance, you could place a meeple here on this little tiny river thing called a tributary. And there's 2 of them, so you could place it on that side or this side, for instance. And then that's placing a meeple. You can place a camp in the jungle if you want to. You only have 2 of them in the game, but once you place a camp, they will stay there on the tile, unlike what just happened since it fell off. But it will stay on that tile in the jungle for the rest of the game. You do not get it back, and you only score points with the camp at the end of the game. Now, how you score points is dependent on how many animals are in the jungle with your current camp. So here we have a scarlet macaw in the jungle, and so you would score a point for that macaw if that was the only animal that this camp had in its particular jungle. So that's how that would work. Now you'll also notice that this tributary here also has a boat icon. When you place a meeple on a tributary with a boat icon, your boat will automatically get to move on up 1. So that's another way your boat can move up 1. You can place a meeple on a tributary that has, obviously, the boat icon on it. Now, you won't always have a boat icon on a tributary, so if you have a meeple on a tributary that doesn't have a boat icon, but then later down the road, a boat icon is added to the tributary, then you would get to move your boat for each one of the boat icons that show up after the fact, after that meeple has obviously already been added. Or if you just happen to add a meeple to a tributary that has a boat icon on it, or a few boat icons on it, of course. Now, in normal Carcassonne, you can never place a meeple or a camp in the same jungle or the same tributary as another player. But if you place, for instance, let's say there's a meeple here on this tributary, right? And we have another tributary over here. It's not connected to that tributary. Let's just say there's nothing here yet. We're placing this down, and somebody else placed a tributary. Let me grab Ridley's piece here. Let's say Ridley placed this tile down, and he placed it like here, and this was all the way over here, or something like that, for instance. This is one separate tributary, that's another separate tributary, and so he could place his meeple there, and then later, if they were connected, they would share the score. So that's one way you can get more than one player's meeple, or multiple meeples for that matter, on the same tributary, is if you put them before they connect down like that. So that's how that would work. Now, another thing that you'll notice on some tributaries is there are food icons as well. When a tributary is finished, meaning both ends are done, so this one goes into a village, and this side there's a rock in the middle. That's ending the tributary line, so to speak. You'll get your meeples back, and you'll also score points. You'll score 1 point for each tile that makes up the tributary. You'll also score 1 additional point for the food as well. So if there's a bunch of food icons on that tributary, you'll score a few extra points for those as well. So that's really nice, but just 1 point for each. So that's how that would work. And you would get your, obviously, you would get your meeples back, so you can continue to use them. Now, you can also place, obviously, a meeple in a village as well, if you want to as well. And when a village is complete, you will score 2 points for each tile that makes up the village. You'll score 2 points for each one, and then for every food icon that is in the village, you'll score an additional point for each of those as well. And that's how that works. So obviously, placing your meeples in a village would give you more points than placing a meeple on a tributary. However, you still would like to place meeples on a tributary because it gives you a chance to move your boat more often. And that's what you really want to do, because you're going to score lots and lots of points depending on where your boat is down the river. Who's ever in first place, whoever's in second, is not going to score nearly as much points as the person who's in first place. So moving your boat whenever you can is definitely a logical strategy. So if you don't want to place a meeple, maybe you only have one left and you're hoping to get a particular tile to place it on, you don't have to place a meeple or a camp. Just move your boat, because that's what you get to do if you don't get to place a meeple or a camp. You just get to move your boat up one. So that's nice. So obviously, not having anything to do is definitely nice and enjoyable if there's something you can still do that is strategically sound any way you look at it. So that's how this game works. Obviously, you're also going to have to make sure that your tile will match up to where you're placing it as well, just like in normal Carcassonne. So like, for instance, I couldn't place it like that because this village goes right into a jungle like that. That is not allowed. So I wouldn't be able to place it there like that. Even though technically it connects on this side, it has to match all sides when placing. And if there's nothing on these sides, then don't worry about it. So that's how that works. Let's see here. So why don't we get started in the next video, and we'll start playing the game. We can go over some more rules of gameplay while we play. We'll talk about end scoring when the game is done as well. I'm going to try to play the full game here. So we have a nice scoreboard over here. So that also might not be something you see in the next video very often, because we'll be focused on over here and building this area as well as the river. Also, if you look closely, we got Ridley and Manta over there. They may not be, you may not see them in the next video. If you watch the gameplay video, you might not see them. So take a look at them while you can, because they're not going to be in the next video probably, unless I move them or pick them up or move the camera. So obviously we have some tiles over here, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of them. So that's pretty much all the tiles there is. So the game is complete when all of the tiles have been placed, just like in normal Carcassonne. So that's how this game will end as well. But you'll never place all four of them. You'll never place all four of the double-sided tiles. Just 3 of the 4. So pick well. Pick well, indeed. Alright, and then this is a mouthpiece. This will go at the very end of the river, of the Amazon River, and they will go at the end when the game is done. And you'll get additional scoring with this, and we will go over that at the end of the game after we finish up. So, anyways, let's leave it at that for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video when we actually start to play. It won't be completely like this. I need to move things around, obviously, so we can have as much space for the gameplay.